Hey, want to thank everybody once again. Cory, Schoebel's here with us from chrisad. Really a pleasure to have you back.
Thank you again.
Anytime Cory gets anywhere near our realm, we like to get together and look at what's happening in dentistry. Right. Good things that are changing, things that are a pain in the neck that are changing. I'm really excited about some very interesting things that have been happening over the last couple of years that I think affect every office, and that doctors don't know that they have a choice to make, really. It's not apparent.
Yeah, I agree with this.
I mean, the first thing is the doctors know there's a choice to make, and as they're looking at schedules being full, and yet they're struggling because costs are up and the costs of employees are up.
Right.
So the reality is doctors need to be more productive.
I see it in my business model going into offices. Yes, there's no doubt about it. They have to be more productive because their costs have gone up. It's very simple.
What's the natural way that most doctors, when they think, I need to be more productive, what's the first thing they think of?
Additional services. I would say procedures that they're referring out that are brought up.
Right. So they bring in endo. So now you take something that's slow, that you can't charge the specialist wage.
Yeah, that's probably not the best idea.
And so then you take an hour and a half to do a molar root canal. You spend 10 grand, you go to California once, a couple of amazing training facilities there, and you learn to do a procedure that somebody else does and can get paid more for. That last time I looked, an hour and a half was like 2 or 3 crowns.
Yeah, correct. Mathematically, you kind of parse it out.
And that increased, it increased your potential performance if it replaced something that was less remunerative, which is unlikely that you could take out of your schedule, because you can't really.
Listen, I'll never argue. Like, please increase your service base. From a guy like me, and we do the, we do the revenue per exam, per doctor, and those guys that keep all their services, clear victors over some of their colleagues.
If you can figure out where to put it.
Well,
in the schedule.
There's also the other side of things, Dave, which is the more you do, the more tethered you are to your business.
That's right.
Which is a completely different conversation. But if you're a super dentist, that means you got to be there to do super work.
Do the super work
every day.
Exactly.
And that's not what a lot of guys seem to want, and ladies want anymore.
Well, to go ahead and continue to do that forever is difficult.
It's daunting.
And so there's a second way to go ahead and increase performance in practice, which is something that chrisad has talked about forever, which is, how about we just do more dentistry?
Increase your capacity to process and care for more patients.
Yeah, and so we were joking earlier that you can increase capacity 2 ways. You can go ahead and increase time, because most dental offices are empty most of the time.
Correct.
Or you can increase the amount of slots you have available the same way Target does it with a bunch of checkout rooms. So,
and what I was telling you today is, and I travel all over this country, and I go to all these dental practices, and right now what I'm seeing is largely every appointment is spoken for.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was. There are clear how do I put this? There's clear disparities in the quality of patients at certain hours of the day or days of the week. But every appointment is spoken for, and the wait times to get into practices is staggering. So
from my mindset is, okay, so what business on earth has a waiting list? Like, this is sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts. And what I will guarantee you is that when Dunkin' Donuts has a line of more than about 5 cars,
I bet you
they figure out how to open another Dunkin' Donuts. It's just a thought, or another way to go ahead. They don't go, oh, well, that's great that we've got a 2-month waiting list.
But that's the difference. A dentist routinely says a waiting list is comfortable and insolent, and look at how protected I am in this market. And that's the opposite of what we promote. And what you promote is,
And it's the opposite of what, like, good new patients will call you, find out they got a whatever waiting, and they'll go, yeah, I'll call you back.
Well, let me share with you something.
Call the next person.
And I'm not bragging, I promise you, but there are clients of ours that you can't get a new patient appointment for 2 to 3 months, and yet they see 200 to 300 new patients a month.
Yeah.
So that means I'm scheduling you.
If you're
not showing up, I'm filling you with more new patients that are calling the same day, but your future schedules, no way, you can't get in.
It's just completely false.
You're completely dependent on dropout.
And so that's called a crazy business model.
Yes.
So that's called. And so increasing, so we would suggest you increase the amount of hours or increase the amount of chairs, or do both.
Do both.
Crazy.
Do both. My Lord.
That's far less popular than plan A, which is get better at procedures.
And I asked you to speak on this. Revenue per exam, productivity per doctor, because it's a big one.
Yeah.
But yes, the concept that I can go incorporate some services and increase my bottom line substantially.
Yeah.
Is rare. It's rare. I guess I just put it. It's rare that you can add this service and increase bottom line 20-30%.
Right.
It doesn't
you're
happen.
on fully booked. So you're going to have a bigger service mix, which is good for the customer, and not have it affect your bottom line much.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's the way to put it.
When you had two other things that you could go ahead and do, again, increase hours of service or increase volume of rooms available. And so one of the things that you've noted, though, that's a challenge over the last couple of years post-COVID is it's harder to go ahead and do things that we did before, like get a hygienist to come in on Saturdays and Sundays. And
I mean, you know how we sweeten the pot. That's essentially the answer and antidote
that's
I
the
have.
solution. Is you've got to get
Yeah.
folks that like will go ahead and move for that change in revenue.
Like we give them time and a half routinely on Saturdays. We give them time and a half to work evenings. And
I know you don't want to hear this, but that's how the offices that are open those hours are doing that.
Can I tell you why? Okay, this is why, you guys, and for you listening and watching, it's very easy to justify time and a half because the occupancy and the schedule is filled with employed people that have jobs and insurance. So when we calculate how much revenue is derived from the exams that are done on certain days and certain hours, what we find is that the ones that are done in the evening and on the weekends, last time I checked, this was 2022, it was $1,250 revenue per exam.
Revenue per exam.
$550 is the revenue per exam that occurs between 8 and 4, Monday through Friday. And I'll attribute this quote to John Christensen. Hold on.
Right.
He said, if you're gonna get paid for putting your fingers in somebody's stinky mouth, you might as well make the most of it.
Yeah.
And see the patients that have the greatest probability of saying yes to your treatment plan.
Right.
It makes all the sense in the world. That's how you have to incentivize your team. I know it's not easy to pay them time and a half to come in after work, but it's worth it.
Doctors are nervous about that.
Yes.
But they need to get over that if that's the solution. And for so many offices that can't expand, that's the only other lever you can really pull of significance that's going to add a significant amount of revenue, because it adds, like, the one implant adds this much revenue. The 4 hours of evening time or 8 hours of Saturday time times how many hygienists, like that implant is, or whatever other service is a tiny fraction of what that other service adds.
Yeah.
So given that, we've been trying to figure out, because most doctors are going to nibble at plan A and add some services and get some training and maybe train up their associate that underproduces, who will then go out and compete with them, but that's another story. Because they won't
talk about that.
Well, they won't add capacity for that person enough to make it a win for them.
A lot of doctors deliberately starve their associates. It's a weird way to do it.
It's just a weird, you
don't feed them enough to keep them.
We're part of the family, but we're going to
it.
starve you as your child in the basement. Yeah. And so if you're going to, you don't want that strategy.
Can we go over a little bit about how you build towards not having that strategy occur?
I think it's a great.
I mean, there's simple metrics that we apply, and then there's going to be slight variations, but generally we find the primary has to build in at least 50 to 100 exams a month for the associate before you're ready to have an associate come on board.
Right.
Otherwise, they're going to take from you, and your bottom line profit is going to go down.
So the primary dentist who has lived on 25 new patients a month.
Correct. And 6 days a week of hygiene.
And 6 days a week total. That's total. That means 6 total days.
Yeah.
Might be in there 3.5 days of being open.
Needs to make adjustments prior to bringing the doctor.
Before bringing the associate is, the associate, if you need 25 new patients, the associate may need 50.
He will need many more.
That's not the number that's not something you wanted to hear.
No.
Okay, but that's
the learning
the
curve.
reality.
Yeah,
and so and then the senior doctor needs to not resent looking at the treatment plan that was accepted, which looks very different or less significant than what the senior doctor might have done. And so again, the natural thing for the senior doctor to figure is, I just have to get this person to be like me, but I'm not going to provide them with the resources because I'm not going to trust that they're going to stay. And so you set in motion the reason that they don't stay.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very well explained way of putting
what
it.
winds up happening. So don't be that guy, I guess is the...
Yeah, and just, there's a little preparation that goes into it. I mean, we have clients that call all the time, like, I want to get a doctor. It's like, my back hurts, I want a doctor. It's like, well, you didn't do any of the legwork, sort of. Like,
wrong, like,
we don't have enough exams.
It's very nice of you to need that. It's like, I need another doctor because you're unwilling to go ahead and do the other things that you need to do,
But yes, I mean, back to the productivity, I mean, I asked you, again, because I've known you for a long time. I need doctors to become more productive. And there's lots of ways to do it, but I'm thinking of that, what's that Rush song? It's like, even though I haven't made a choice, it's a choice.
That's like that. It's a Midwest Canada thing.
Yeah, like that's not a good choice. Not choosing is not a choice.
Yeah, there you go. So
you need to choose.
Here's some crazy thinking. What if we could go ahead, since most people aren't going to do what we do as work, private work, which is to expand their office, to build a second office or a third, whatever. Even though the great offices are able to get the number of employees that they want, somebody's going to be short, but not going to be you.
Touch upon that a little bit, because there can be.
Okay, we should go.
They're in the same markets. There are people that cannot, for the life of them, find an employee. Right. And down the road, there's an abundance.
What's very interesting is very interesting that we have a waiting list of hygienists and assistants waiting to join us. Like,
great.
Where you're working.
It's great.
But that's a cultural focus to go ahead and make that possible. It's spending the money as an investment to make it a culture that people want to join, that the office is generating a revenue. And you don't have afford to pay them, and closing the back door on that by doing everything possible to make that a great experience. There's something else behind that, though, which is how we became really productive. And for years, we at Design Ergonomics didn't really communicate this well enough. That the entire premise of the business was the study of Toyota, and the study of lean, and the study of process. And so dental school is all about procedures, drill on tooth. Do you know the time when you count, so value adding, what the patient pays for is time on tooth, like drilling and shaping and crowning or whatever. Get a guess on what percentage of an hour you spend on that?
15, 20%? I don't know.
10%. 10%. Right. So by the Toyota's definition of productivity, the time on tooth of a dentist in an hour is 10%.
Okay.
So if you just change that ratio slightly, by taking all the other stuff that happens in the 90% and reducing it, which Toyota defines as waste. So that's Toyota's definition of waste, is anything that's non-value added. Things that you can't say to the patient, hey, by the way, we actually want to sterilize your equipment, your instruments that we use for you. We'd like to charge you extra, even though they try to do that in the 70s. Yeah. We go, even anything that gets instruments from here to there and back and forth, like the patient is going to pay for that.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
So if you reduce that, suddenly there's more time for this, which you get paid for.
Right.
Which actually doctors like doing, because doctors don't like waiting for rooms, and they don't like, room turnaround. They don't like going gets.
So let me ask you a really dumb question, open-ended. What would be the configuration in your ideal dental practice of what a doctor does, or how a doctor operates, or how many chairs they work with, or how many assistants they work with? Like, if you can.
The math on how many, many doctors struggle to go ahead and do two columns of dentistry and 2 columns of hygiene. That's kind of their conceptual limit.
That's the
Of
ceiling.
what they're able to do.
That's the ceiling.
Well,
yeah.
mostly because the process is super inefficient.
Yeah.
Mostly. And so if you can make the process more efficient, you're able to go ahead and accommodate more hygiene capacity with that dog.
Mhm.
So those things are possible. But I'm not even so concerned about that as I am with just the amount of wasted time where assistants aren't at chair sides because assistants are running around doing something else, or hygienists aren't on a tooth scaling it because they're doing room turnaround. The average, so the rate limiting step in treatment room turnaround is the speed of disinfection of the surfaces.
The fallow time.
That's 4 minutes,
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
That's 4 minutes. That would be, in Toyota speak, your rate limiting step.
Okay.
So the average office that we go into when we stopwatch, and we've only done hundreds of hours of it, is 10 or more minutes to turn a room around.
Seems like a lot. Am I wrong?
It's crazy.
Okay, yeah, that seems like a long time.
But a lot of it is because of wasted surfaces and it's the process that's the problem.
Also, what I see from my perspective, and I'll get back to you, is sometimes the scheduling, the front desk is not really monitored in a lot of practices, so there's this built-in buffer that occurs in so many practices, just that adds up. It's like 10, 10, yeah.
But that's because, so 25 years ago, I wrote a scheduler and offered to give it to the largest scheduling company when everybody was converting to digital schedules. And I offered because I know how to collapse time. As you add more procedures to a time, you don't add the procedure times together.
Correct.
Those times condense down.
Yeah.
The computer softwares don't know how to do that.
Okay.
And so these people just wind up with automatic buffers added in. Like 2 crowns takes as long as 1 crown, or 2 crowns take twice as long as 1 crown.
Yeah, incorrect.
It's crazy, incorrect.
Yeah.
Okay, next to each other. So all that's just a math equation. The dental software company, of course, no one in the dental software company actually has ever been a dentist.
Right.
And when I literally was going to give them, I just wanted to make it for me. I'll give you, I work there. Can you just make this? And they went like, I don't know why anybody would need this. So as a result, I think that computer schedules, even in small offices, probably lose dentists $30,000 net a year minimum.
Oh, and let me add another thing that they lose, Dave. That is one thing they lose, a bunch. Sorry, and the one thing that we see a lot of is the subtle manipulation of the schedule.
Maneuvering on the schedule.
It's probably 10 times as bad as
what do you know? There's
moving patients from 5 to 2.
4:30 in the afternoon. I don't know. Nobody wants to come in.
I know we're talking about productivity, but Doc, I mean, there's please watch your schedules. Yeah. The likelihood is your team is trying to just get out a little early.
Yeah. Well,
and they're doing it.
Consciously or not. You know, that happens in practices.
A lot of people don't want to think their employees are working against them, but there is an oppositional side of business that your employee and your employer don't always see eye to eye.
That's a relationship thing that, like,
doesn't happen in very well-run practices.
Well,
it really doesn't.
It needs to be a mutual win. And if it's not if there's not some mutual win, then things will naturally go where they should go, which is somebody gets out a little early. And so you do need to work on that. But so for us, what we began to look at, even though it was in our core business, it was central to our core business. If we design an office for you and equip it, it automatically comes. And I just thought, we'll just build a damn office.
Well,
and so, for 2 decades we went and did that, and then really some of our people said, you know, there's just some people that aren't or can't build an office or can't afford to do it now.
Right.
And there's just no way out until they get more productive. Is there anything we can do for them? And so
that's where we came in.
Well,
use the facility more. I mean, that's kind of like our
exactly
central motto.
You came in and said, use the facility more. And we came in and said, let's go ahead and actually make every minute you spend in the facility more productive. And in so doing that, so the cost of doing that, you know, the high-end endo course or implant course is somewhere around 10 grand. So you send somebody and you get better at doing one thing that's one minor, which we talked about. For the same amount of money, we will actually come in to your office. I don't know if you, we will come in your office, we will change not any single procedure you do. Stays exactly the same as however you want to do it. Whether you're a Buchanan person or a like Ruddle person or for endo, whatever it is, none of that changes. But how you get things to and from that appointment to make the appointment more efficient, that can change.
And that has just exponential benefits over the course of weeks and days and months and years.
Every day then turns into advantage. You free up people that are doing logistics things to actually go do dentistry. We guarantee in the first 4 to 6 months a 20% increase in production.
Love it. No, I didn't know that.
And it drops to well, we haven't told anybody, but it's a money back guarantee. Since we've been doing that, we had one guy in New York who wanted his money back. He said, you know, I told my staff what to do. You showed my staff what to do. They don't want to do it. So here's the funny part. So like he kind of thought he won
by getting his money back.
By getting his money back and not getting better.
That's right. I really pulled the wool over that guy.
I'm not getting better. So that's the.
You can't make me better.
It's actually you can't make me better. There's my staff, I do you. This is the team I got. So we'll guarantee that. And so here's what we found. Many times that increase in revenue. Now it really ought to be, you ought to be able to get like 40, 50% better. But at 20%, that goes straight to the bottom line. That many times has been the revenue for someone to go ahead and make the next change.
Agreed.
So folks went, okay, now it doesn't suck to do dentistry. Now it's actually easier. Now I can see more hygiene patients because I actually got more time freed up. I'm not.
That's where you and I are in complete agreement. Like when we go into an office, it's not marketing. You have to get the policies refined and sharpened first, and you have to talk them off their desire for more. Because they're not equipped to handle more yet, or to waste more.
So here's chrisad gets paid for doing marketing for people, telling people not to go ahead.
Well, not initially. We
better.
We want you to market.
Once you get good at doing the dentistry, then your capacity for patients.
Like we talked about, it's for lack of a better way of putting it, it's an eligibility-based marketing system, which some people are like, stupid, I should be able to, it's my money.
It's not my money.
Dave, I have a funny story. We have a client who got into like a war with another client because we wouldn't release his marketing. And the guy is slandering me up and down on these message boards. And another client came in and said, I think you're not getting the point. They're trying to help you.
They're actually trying to help you.
And it's like we gave the guy his money back, kind of like you said. Like, man, I don't know. I'm sorry. I wasn't compelling enough in my argument for you to change.
For you to not do, not just blow the money.
But it's a good way of doing it, and you can see the change. That's our goal. Yours too is to increase the bottom line before any marketing goes out, before any expansion occurs, before any money is spent.
You gotta go ahead. We gotta get you strong first.
Correct.
And once we get
it's like vitamins and nutrients.
Again, I'm a little mad at me by for the first couple of decades not wanting to deal with somebody that hadn't already figured out much of this.
Right.
Well, that was wrong, and so
I think we're still figuring it out.
Well, I mean, but that was wrong, and so the ability to come in, remediate an office, just do the simple things that aren't obvious, and then be able to move them up. And the same thing. Get your front desk procedures, get your intake procedures right, get all that worked out. That's inexpensive stuff. Then you can go ahead and make a decision on how you want to spend money.
That's right.
From there. Well, I have enjoyed. We still have not finished coffee. We've got more.
I finished my coffee.
We've got more things to talk about, but thank you, Dunkin' Donuts, for sponsoring us. And you should actually sponsor us more. We have to talk to Bain Capital about that, which we're talking to DSOs, the same.
Yeah, that's right.
We should stop drinking this stuff. Okay. We'll talk to them about that. Anyway, thank you all for the time in listening to us.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Dave.
Really a great pleasure. And hope you all have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you.